Welcome to Shreveport Connection with Tommy. This video is on your SmackDown 205 Live and Mixed Match Challenge results. I'm recording it on Wednesday night. It's not a spoiler for 205 Live. But happy birthdays goes from December 4th and December 5th. December 4th birthday is Victor. He was born in 1980. Miss Tess Mocker. I wished her a birthday on her Facebook account a day earlier. She was born in 1984. Hiromu Takahashi. He was born in 1989. The living legend Larry Zbyszko. He was born December 5th, 1953. And also born on December 5th, 1958. And also died on Wednesday, December 5th. My condolences go to his family, Tom Millington. Legendary pro wrestling Thomas Dynamite Kid Tom Millington passed away earlier today at the age of 60. Kid who wrestled for WWE in the 80s, spent the last few years of his career wrestling in Japan. Won the then WWF Junior Heavyweight Championship while working for New Japan Pro Wrestling and the tag team titles in WWE along with Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog. Marty Jones posted the news on this. The trainer from the United Kingdom first broke the news, taking to social media to announce that the kid has passed away on his 60th birthday. It's with great sadness I have to inform you all that Dynamite Kid Tom Millington on his birthday has passed away. A true British ambassador for wrestling worldwide. Rest in peace, Kid. Condolences to Mark and his family. This week's WWE Raw saw Scott Dawson lose a singles match to Lucha House Party, contested under Lucha House rules. That saw Kalisto, Liz Dorado, and Grand Metalik get the win. A post-show footage of Dawson and Dash Wilder talking to Dr. Fuentes about what went down. Dawson shows off a swollen eye, while Dash rants about how the 3-on-1 advantage was unfair. The dark match advertised for from this week's Raw from Houston saw Elias versus General Manager-elect Constable Corbin turn into a six-man match. The match ended with Elias, Finn Balor, and Dolph Ziggler defeating Corbin. Finn Balor and Dolph Ziggler defeating Constipated Corbin. Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley. Dean Ambrose versus the WWE Intercontinental Champion Seth Rollins was advertised but did not happen. Matt Hardy was interviewed by Sportskeeda this week, and you can check out the full interview at sportskeeda.com. If a retirement is on his horizon, no, it's not. I took time off to heal some nagging injuries, and I'll be back sooner rather than later. So I've been doing this 26 years. I was just a little beat up. I was given a little time off. From when I've been back for over a year and a half, I was full time. I did everything. Jeff was off with surgery, so I just had a little time off. I think Bray needed a little time off as well. He'd been in a car accident, so I think it was just a little bit of time off for everyone. So I think you'll see an evolution of Bray Wyatt and an evolution of Matt Hardy. His thoughts on Wyatt's facing the New Day at the Wyatt compound? Well, I think the issue with some of that and the House of Horrors match too. And I've had these conversations obviously because myself and Bray Wyatt have become great friends while we were teaming. But I feel like wrestling fans understand wrestling is entertainment. And I feel like when you present something that's so broad and so imaginative, like the Final Deletion or the House of Horrors, I feel like you can't take yourself too seriously. And I felt like both of these were too serious. Almost a horror production. While ours was like we were winking at the audience. We're having fun here and it's entertaining, but you're in on it. And that was my goal with the entirety of the Woken universe. On my way to India, I watched Deadpool 2, and Deadpool is very reminiscent of what I was trying to do with the Broken Universe. Even Preacher has a lot of the same humor. It's a fantastical world, but there are a lot of inside jokes making fun of it. That was kind of the whole point, and that was my goal with all that. Another family entering into pro wrestling, second generation debut. When your dad is a pro wrestler, it's hard to keep you out of the business sometimes, and that appears to be the case for Jimmy Wang Yang's daughter, Jazzy. She recently made her pro wrestling debut at Tokyo Dome 2018's Wednesday's Nitro last week during one spot in a match where Yang and Kaz Hayashi face off against Shannon Moore and Lasawa. Yang went down on the outside, and this is when his daughter got involved at this link. Jazzy got on the apron and took the tag for her father. Jimmy later commented on how proud he was of the entire experience. This was a moment that got over in a big way with the crowd, and it could only be the start of a very fun journey in pro wrestling for young Jazzy Yang. HBO is reportedly working on a documentary about New Japan Pro Wrestling star Kenny Omega, who is the current IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Musician Joseph Shabason recently appeared on the Creative Control podcast and revealed that he had completed the musical score for the documentary. And Shabason indicated that the documentary will air in early 2019. I just finished a documentary about a wrestler that's going to be coming out on HBO in the new year, which is going to be really exciting, he said. It's a wrestler named Kenny Omega. He's a wrestler from Winnipeg, but I went to Japan and he went to Japan and formed his tag team called the Golden Lovers, which is sort of the first ever queer storyline in wrestling. He's a pretty incredible dude. I was really happy with scoring it. HBO found major success with their documentary on WWE Hall of Famer Andre the Giant that was released earlier this year along with WWE. Stay tuned for updates on when the Omega documentary will air, as Omega is set to defend his IWGP Heavyweight title against Hiroshi Tanahashi at the New Japan Pro Wrestling Wrestle Kingdom 13 event from Tokyo Dome on January 4th, 2019. Canadian Wrestling Elite CWE recently ripped Brutus the Barber Beefcake publicly over a beefcake apparently no-showing several events of theirs. Here's a statement on the matter from CWE's owner, Danny Warren. On November 30th, Booker beware. Brutus the effing Barber Beefcake. Without further ado, the official statement regarding the CWE Brutus Beefcake fiasco that very quickly became far-spread wrestling news. My sincerest apologies for the delay and not getting this done sooner, as my inbox has been flooded with inquiries from wrestlers, promoters, fans, wrestling media, and media in general wanting the scoop. After being on the road nearly 40 days, I'm finally able to sit down, although it is nearly 6 a.m. and I struggle to stay awake, but I shall make no one wait any longer. I appreciate the patience and understanding in a world that wants news now. I want to preface this with that even though this situation left me out money and causing a damage control nightmare over the last 5 days of our tour, and even though I have concrete fact materials, bank statements, texts, etc. to dispute any claim otherwise that I am about to write, it has still been an internal struggle on if it was the right thing to do. In a day of an age our business is blown wide open to the general public, I am a firm believer of a lot of it. Shouldn't be over 10 years of promoting and 16 years as an active traveling wrestler. There have been many situations you just bite your tongue on for the greater good, and this lovely thing that still has a pulse, believe it or not, called kayfabe. However, as this story broke and took on a life of its own, really brought a lot of people out of the woodwork, both involved our tour in some capacity, and countless others sharing horrible experiences and previous dealings that it made quite clear This was one of those you caught him on a bad day situation and behavior that is often repeated. Eating the financial loss is something I'd prefer not to do and hope that the money is returned, but as someone who passionately and aggressively promotes wrestling and promotes our brand across the country, is a bigger loss is that of the credibility a promotion takes when they literally have their hands tied, and for that, it needs to be addressed. Indie promoter can have a bad stigma to it. As a wrestler, you have to deal with my share, and I understand where some of that stink comes from, but there are some good guys out there. Unfortunately, their name and their brand has a fraction of their star power of a name talent, and in a day and age of social media, often a fraction of the network and reach. As a result, when a name talent is involved in bad dealings, it is beyond easy for them to spin a story to their liking and having it reach a lot more people. And with that, it appears that a lot more credibility based on their celebrity, and that the local indie is left in shameless as it has burnt paying fans, media, and sponsors in their market who were not only hard enough to get out the first time, but also maintain, all while the name moves on to the next promotion in hopes he will draw for them, usually virtually unscathed. I, for one, love to see that stop, and for there to be accountability. And with social media today, I think that is possible, at least appears possible, as it brought forward many other stories like this. The quick and the dirty. Now that I have bored you with my intent, here are the cold, hard facts of what made his rounds and the situation at hand. Brutus Beefcake was booked to appear on 32 events over 32 nights as a headliner of the Struttin' and Cuttin' Tour. Brutus appeared on 27 of the 32 events and was paid for 28. The 28th payment coming after an event for the next night, in which he has acknowledged since he knew the morning before he wasn't going to make, but took the payment anyways. When putting together the deal with Missy Beefcake, his wife, which is a whole other element to the story and the month nightmare I endured, it was expressed that there would not be a deposit sent, but Brutus would be paid nightly. Some talent requires a deposit. Sadly, the word deposit makes me cringe, as 4 out of 5 times it would result in me giving away free money to never see it again. So I avoided it at all costs, which is truly unfortunate, as many legitimate professionals ask for one, and rightly so. As some bad apple promoters paint us all with the same brush, but sadly some wrestlers do the same. On that side, so many of us just avoid it altogether. Furthermore, CWE has been in operation for 10 years and not only routinely uses former WWE, WCW, ECW stars, etc., but current and former Impact and Ring of Honor stars, but have probably used nearly over 100 of them at this point, with not only a great track record and reputation, but with a lot of these talents returning on multiple occasions, and ones we've used for the first time, usually being recommended or put in contact with us by previous talent that has came in. Any era that talent may be from can easily be pointed to a dozen of guys he has worked with that will give us the okay. Fast forward to a few days prior to a tour, and Missy contacts me with a request to send $5,000, add 33% of Canadian conversion on top of that. Prior to Brutus getting on his plane, I explained that sending nearly 2 weeks worth of wages prior to him even arriving is completely out of the question, and not only happening, but financially not possible. It is explained to me that Brutus never leaves home without a deposit. I explained that his flight has been purchased as has advertising in 32 markets promoting his appearance. I resend a screenshot of our original agreement of there being a deposit and questioning why is this an issue all of a sudden. No answer given. My hands are tied as I don't want to and can't lose the tour is promoted around, sponsorship sold on, and media lined up on, so we agree that he will receive payment for 4 shows upon his arrival, so he is always ahead on payments and never owed money. The second that was agreed upon, that lovely feeling in my gut said, "You're going to get screwed," and here we are. It was agreed that he would be paid 4 shows upon his arrival, and by that I mean not Brutus physically getting paid, but me having to go above and beyond to send Missy large sums of money, regardless of how challenging it was to do so in some of the smaller markets we were in. After that, I would send Brutus weekly payments to Missy, with him still being ahead on the payments. Fast forward to him, or getting sent the 4th bank payment. It is wired, and they are now requesting, instead of sending the last one, that I pay him cash every night. Sure, no problem. Now the final show he did was in Winnipeg on Friday, November 16th. He has claimed he knew that the morning he knew he is leaving that Missy was trying to get a hold of me. I'll get to that in a second. I paid him per our arrangement for the following night, and not a word was whispered of leaving. Money being owed or not owed, aside him getting up and fleeing the country without telling anyone, is equally, if not as horribly offensive and disrespectful as taking the money, as now not only screwed the crew he had been on the road with, who were taking care of him day to day for the last month, the company as a whole, but a sold-out show in Thunder Bay that expected to see him as multiple towns after that. With him leaving and not informing me, I didn't find out until a few hours until bell time, when I sent direction to a crew member that involved Brutus, and he responded, "Well, Brutus didn't tell you he was leaving?" "Nope, he sure didn't. Checked my voicemail, checked my texts, and nothing." A text was sent to Brutus once I got off the call, asking, "Are the boys ribbing me, or did you leave the tour?" No response all day Saturday, and not until a few hours before the show Sunday, in which he cited family emergency, and that I didn't answer Missy's message. False. The last communication I had with Missy was her telling me it was an emergency, and she needed to get a hold of Brutus on Friday morning after I dropped him off from an appearance. This was uncommon, as she would blow up on my phone like a mad woman if Brutus didn't respond to her promptly and wanted to get a hold of him. That was the last communication she attempted, and I gave her his hotel name and number. In fact, if in fact there was a family emergency, that was Friday morning. I saw Brutus all evening at the event, and he didn't say a word about leaving the next morning. I saw him at the after party, and he didn't say a word about leaving the next morning. I gave him an envelope of money for the next night, and he didn't say anything about leaving the next morning to me or anyone on the crew. He left the next morning, not only with the next night's pay over 100 fresh off the press 8x10 photos the company printed and provided for his meet and greet sessions per our agreement. To be very clear, if there was a family emergency, by all means, family first. However, given the fact that both Brutus and Missy had zero problem or consideration for blowing up my phone multiple times a day if they felt the need to or be heard, there was zero effort to say he had to leave the tour in a way that the company could have salvaged the situation any better than he could. Or we could. All we knew Saturday was he wasn't going to be there a few hours before bell time, and still worked aggressively to find a replacement. An official word on what was going on couldn't be put out until late Sunday, as we still didn't know what the heck went wrong and where he was. Although we let the live audience know and removed him from appearing online, and finally, after hearing from him, we had nearly secured Jacobs and made the announcements as we were finally off the brutal northwestern Ontario highways with no internet and capable of hammering out notice. This is your strutting and stunting story. Director's cut. I've gone on record in saying this was the worst experience of my career, with no close second And sadly, that is the truth. I've been very blessed to work with some incredible talent, and no, it isn't always easy. When you're on the road for weeks, in this case, a month at a time, you're going to clash sometime, whether it's personally or professionally. That's life. Then factor in the Canadian travel grind. Even through this nightmare of a month, I still tried very hard to give Brutus the benefit of the doubt. There were days he was one of the boys, other days he was just a miserable human being and downright uncomfortable to be around. I'm very realistic that for a man of his age and for his body to be in the shape it is in, being on the road is going to be tough and you might have some bad days, but every day seemed to be a bad day for Brutus at some point or another, and no matter how the crew, myself, tried to accommodate him, there was just no making him happy. But it is because he is a grizzled veteran on the road, right? The last 4 tours alone have been headlined by Ron Simmons, Jake Roberts, Nikita Koloff, and Paul Orndorff. All absolute gentlemen, professionals, and not only a pleasure to be around day to day, but become a part of the team and contributed day to day with the talent and our guys I would have recommended many times over to people. You and you alone control what you project, and the Canadian kindness was a fever Brutus wasn't catching up here. The deal came together very easily, but that's where it also ended. Once I was locked in, it began. Professional wrestlers do not need a work visa to enter Canada to wrestle. Missy, who appointed herself my main and only contact for everything, contacted me about a month prior to the tour saying that she needed a letter drafted for Brutus to cross into Canada. This isn't uncommon, as I do it for a lot of skeptical American talent that lays out the Canadian policy, their purpose of the visit, the timeline, etc., and my contact info. This letter is drafted and sent to her, the exact same we have used for 10 years, and as designed by an immigration lawyer for this purpose. Also, keep in mind that the American wrestlers are appearing in CWE almost weekly with our weekly rural shots as well. Well, not good enough for Missy. Missy wants me to draft up a letter and lie to Canada Customs and sign my name to it by not mentioning anything about wrestling or Brutus appearing at entertainment events, and that he is strictly here for a book tour. I explained we do not need to lie, and this letter will gain him entry as it has for many others. She is certain it is going to cause him an issue at the border, and I am certain it is not that all it will take as searching his name online to see him appearing on wrestling events. Furthermore, lying will have him denied, but possibly have us both charged for lying to Canadian Customs. This is debated, and somewhere along the way, she must have let it go, as it was the last I heard of it, and he got into the country. It was requested Brutus had a big vehicle to travel in because it's a big guy, no problem. Prior to the tour, a few talents canceled, didn't make the tour, so we had to pivot on the fly and work with one less vehicle on the tour. Per her request, we put Brutus in the biggest vehicle, a Ram 2500. Plenty of room for Brutus, as you could realistically, and we have put a third full-size adult in there in the front when we needed. The truck, however, being the biggest vehicle, would have the ring trailer attached to it, and Missy was outraged. We were treating her husband like a jabroni by having that trailer attached to it on principle of it being the ring truck, although there were only 3 vehicles on tour, all tightly packed, and mind you, with the loss of one, driving to the same venues and same hotels, roughly around the same time most days, even though he not only had lots of personal space, more space than anyone else, but most importantly, more space there than he would in any other vehicle. It just wasn't suffice. Never in my life it has been so difficult to pay someone. As mentioned above, previously, I always have paid the talent cash nightly. Some have requested it to get in weekly installments. to have to carry less cash on them, but either way, they are paid what they are supposed to get paid. However, right from the start, I needed to send 4 shows up front because of the situation above and because Missy needed money too, while Brutus was gone, and that was a responsibility now put on me. Although a pain in the butt to my day, which is always a beyond busy day when you are touring city to city with an event every day, I tried to empathize that she needed money too while he was away and would try make it easier for them if I could at this point, minus a hold up. They seemed like decent folk. Right out of the gate, I run my first collision with that what it is to come. Missy requests I send money by PayPal. No problem, except it is. With the funds coming from my Canadian bank account, there is a 3 to 5 business day delay in transfer to an American account. Well, guess what? It's 4 days in USA. Either way, when it is sent, it is sent in hers. That's not good enough. However, she needs it that day, and on the day we agreed to do the payments as accessible to her. All right, so we try Western Union. It's going to be a pretty penny to send a large sum, but I guess I'll just eat that too, except that they have a limit on what you can send to another country, and this exceeded it, so won't work either. Keep in mind that I have a show to get to and produce and have his cash in hand. Just want to go here, take it. We go to my bank, and they can wire it for $25 U.S. dollars. It is agreed what we'll do for this payment, and the rest with the expectation. I absorb this extra $100 in wire fees that they are requiring me to send instead of giving him cash. Whatever. I have a show to get to, but first we need a bunch of vital information to do, so which means another hour in the bank as she calls her back to get it. My bank processes and signs off on it. No big deal. Just a show to run. It's finally sent, and I sent her a text as I'm rushing out of the bank, and that it is sent. Within seconds, she is blowing up my phone with calls and texts that the money wasn't sent, and that she was being deceived. Only for a few minutes later, for her to send another message saying it popped up in her account. It took a few minutes to process online. Imagine that. Then for the next 3 weeks, I was to make a payment on a Tuesday, but the fund would start on the Friday from Missy. What day are you sending the money? Saturday. Are you still sending Brutus money on Tuesday? Sunday. Are you reminded to send money Tuesday? And with those texts multiplied with hello, are you there? If I wasn't able to respond or happened to be getting three hours of sleep, I didn't get that day. And it wasn't just text. It would be repeated phone calls to ask the same question regarding something still 4 days away. Had no bearing on that day. Then come the day to make payment. To phone calls that stars at 7 a.m. and continue every half hour on the hour to see what time I would be sending the payment. Keep in mind some regions have 2 hours behind her time zone, and most nights not only up late but traveling overnight to the next town. So the last thing I need or want is my phone blowing up at a terribly early hour, preventing me from sleeping. The messages would become aggressive. My favorite thing when you were sending me my money, I didn't realize I had hired Missy Beefcake and that she was on tour working for us. But I learned that day. It's common practice that we do some kind of percentage split and headlining talent on gimmicks. As a result, we have always had a third-party staff member handle the cash flow and accounting of what is sold, so there was no bias or disagreement in what was sold or earned each night. No one, to my recollection, has that system ever been an issue. A third party keeps track of accounting that both the company and the headliner have access to, which ensures both parties everything is on the level. That was fine for a few nights for Brutus, and then it wasn't. We had our referee handling it on this night, and he came to the back after the show, started and asked who gets the money. I explained to him that He holds on to it, and he will be with him at intermission, and as well when he will count it out with us after the event. Minutes later, screaming Brutus comes into the small locker room, making a scene that if he can't be trusted with the money, he may as well get on the plane and go home. Completely caught off guard while I am putting my boots on, he leaves the room before I can put together what happened. As he left the locker room, he then went to the ring and yelled at the referee to give him the effing money. Getting to the bottom of it later, it turns out, according to Brutus, he wanted the money as a float in case he needed change when he never once indicated his tirade earlier. He went on about not being trusted, and which I found ironic, as he held me up for money up front on the same principle. Moving forward to the next few nights, he refused to let the referee handle the money. The referee was shaken from trying to do so, only to have Brutus bite his head off. So I told him just do his best to keep track of sales for me, and I will handle it from there. Next few nights, his numbers totaled higher and higher than the cut Brutus gave me. Well, you can see what was going on from this. So after 26 days on tour, finally going to get 2 very short nights in on bed sleep. While stopping Winnipeg, I dropped the Kingdom off at the hotel, parked in my driveway, had my bags in hand. As I'm starting walking towards the door to see my pregnant girlfriend for the first time in nearly a month, and my 5 pets, I'm stoked. But before I can get inside, the phone rings. It's Brutus. Not just Brutus, but a screaming Brutus, who I had just seen 5 minutes prior to the hotel, who seemed just fine. He's yelling out of control, and I think he may have pocket dialed me while yelling at someone. Nope, it was me. Lucky me. Turns out when he checked into his room, there was someone in it. That's what I gathered anyways. I thought maybe the clerk gave another wrestler a room key, thinking they were in there too. Nope, just an honest mistake where they by accident gave him a key to a room another guest was staying in. Instead of simply going to the desk and explaining someone else is in the room, he needs another. He is screaming at me and this poor girl who barely speaks English, who you can tell was visibly shaken up and nervous by this large screaming man, as if he was ribbed him and intentionally put a stranger in his room to upset him. Even though I was terribly disappointed on a business end, it would be disappointing our fans, but I was truthfully relieved on a personal level that this nightmare had to come to an end. Deep down, they may not ever realize it, but the fans that missed him didn't miss much. There were definitely some good, but definitely more bad reports that surfaced from fans about his interactions with them at our shows, and for that I apologize. We want nothing more than to provide you the best we can, and we'll continue to try to do so. I feel a million times better getting that out there off my chest. Thanks for letting me do so. Danny Warren and Brutus took no time in responding on Facebook. Here's what he had to say. Regarding bad business practice, I have been traveling, wrestling, and doing promotions for 40 plus years. I believe longer than CW's 10 years of operation in all my years on the road. However, I have never had one such flagrant, pedantic complaint like this. And frankly, I have never had any real issues at all, and my record is pretty good. I will say this, however. This tour for me was far as one of the worst I've ever been on in all my years on the road. Thank you for this, Danny. Now I've seen it all. A contact us page on the XFL website has revealed all 8 cities that will host teams for the inaugural season 2020. It looks like pages were edited after the leak. Dallas, Texas, Houston, Texas, Los Angeles, California, New York, Could be New York and New Jersey region, but phone number was New York City, St. Louis, Missouri, Seattle, Washington, Tampa Bay, Florida, and Washington, D.C. XFL has announced that they will reveal the 8 cities along with the venues on Wednesday, December 5th at noon. It's being confirmed that the press conference will take place at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, the site of WrestleMania 35. It was reported earlier this week that St. Louis was one of the host cities. The report stated that the team will play 10 games, with 5 of them taking place at the Dome at America Center. Washington Post confirmed on Friday that Washington, D.C. will host a team, with games being played at Audi Field, sharing the venue with the D.C. United soccer team for at least part of the year. Orlando, Florida was believed to be another city, but it was not included on the XFL website. In a related note, it looks like there could be plans to expand to other major cities once the inaugural season has wrapped. Domain name Wire.com reports that the league registered several domain names for potential host cities and regions earlier this week. Domains use the format of XFLcity.com, CityXFL.com, and XFLCity abbreviation.com. For example, they registered XFLChicago.com, ChicagoXFL.com, and XFLChai.com. 21 cities or regions that are registered domains for are Atlanta, Austin, Chicago, Cleveland, Dallas, Arlington, Detroit, Houston, Kansas City, Los Angeles, Minnesota, Nashville, New York, Orlando, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Seattle, St. Louis, Washington, D.C., and Tampa Bay. These locations could be a sign of where they plan to expand with future seasons or places that they have been under consideration. All 8 cities revealed for the inaugural season are included on the list of domains registered this week. And here are some hirees. XFL website also lists advisors. Jim Caldwell, former NFL coach from the Detroit Lions and Indianapolis Colts. John Fox, former NFL coach from the Carolina Panthers, Chicago Bears, and Denver Broncos. Doug Flutie, former NFL, CFL, and USFL quarterback. Also NBCSN analyst. Donna Orender, WNBA president from 2005 to 2010. John Costner, president of Costner Media, 20-year ESPN veteran. Kevin Guskiewicz, dean of arts and science at UNC, member of the NFL head and neck and spine committee. As Vince McMahon's XFL is scheduled to relaunch in January or February 2020 with a 10-week season. The league, which has WWE as a minority owner, will own all the teams. Vince sold $100 million worth of WWE stock to launch Alpha Entertainment last year as a parent company of the league, and reportedly told people that he expects to spend an estimated $500 million in the first 3 years of operation. Most of the recent episode of the Steve Austin Show, Austin discussed the wrestlers that he'd want to get into the ring with if he were to make a return. Stone Cold mentioned that he'd like to square off with Brock Lesnar because they are very good friends, but also because they have unfinished history, as they were supposed to square off prior to Austin walking out of the company in 2002. Austin also said that he'd be interested in climbing into the ring with Elias. Also mentioned that he wants to give Elias a rub because he finds his character work to be very entertaining. At no point did Austin give any indication that he was actually interested in a comeback. This appears to just be Austin talking about a hypothetical situation rather than it likely to become a reality. Thanks to the credit of the Steve Austin Show. WSVN TV entertainment reporter Chris Van Vliet interviewed Aquaman star Jason Momoa this past weekend. During an interview, Van Vliet mentioned that people think that he resembles Roman Reigns, and asked Momoa if he ever been told that. Well, I mentioned that quite a few years ago when they first brought out the Aquaman character for the movies. I've been I've heard that a couple of times. I haven't had the honor of meeting him yet. Momo replied. The animated film Trouble, which features Seth Rollins voiding a bulldog named Norm, is set to be released on January 11, 2019. During a recent interview with Sporting News, Rollins discussed the role. I recently voiced a character for an animated film coming up. Rollins said, I got to be a bulldog, which is sweet because I never imagined myself as a bulldog. I have. That's my current character. Also, my dream was to go to Georgia. Be a bulldog, but that didn't happen. Nikki Cross worked her first WWE main roster match over the weekend since wrestling Becky Lynch last month on November 6th episode of SmackDown Live. Cross teamed with Lana to defeat Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville at Sunday's live event in Arlington. While I was at the Raw event from Boulder City, Nikki posted a photo on her Instagram writing, Now, Nikki, don't be naughty. You never know when madness comes around and where Nikki will pop up. I didn't get the actual link for that. Sin Cara is working towards making his WWE ring return in early 2019. As he was also seen at Tribute to the Troops. The Masked SmackDown superstar has been out of action since mid-August after undergoing surgery on his right knee. Sin Cara was operated on by Dr. Jeffrey Dugas in Birmingham, Alabama. Sin Cara recently returned to El Paso, Texas to serve as Grand Marshal of the 2018 Sun Bowl Parade and appeared on Peluche and El Suche, a popular Mexican YouTube channel. I hope I pronounced that. My accent Spanish is not very good. Video of the interview, which I did not get that link as well. Staying on a possible WWE return, I would only consider against one opponent. Well, old news. Sin Cara revealed that he is looking at returning to the ring in January. He's undergoing a new treatment where doctors inject cells into his knee to help with the healing. He noted that he's had multiple surgeries on the knee, some before he signed with WWE years ago. He noted that the condition of the knee has worsened since he's been with WWE, but he's thankful that he's still able to wrestle on it. Sin Cara is still undergoing physical therapy, but he expects to be back in the ring next month. Monday's Raw episode from Milwaukee, Wisconsin has been bashed by critics online since the show went off the air. One fan expressed their frustration with the show by editing the Wikipedia page for the city of Milwaukee, noting that the city hosted an event that brought the death of pro wrestling. The edit has been changed back, but here's what they wrote. Milwaukee is the main cultural and economic center of the Milwaukee metropolitan area. It is also the city where wrestling died during an episode of Raw that aired from Milwaukee on November 26, 2018. This week's Raw has been knocked offline as well. German newspaper Bild Zeitung, one of the most popular tabloids in the country, blasted this week's Raw and called it the worst WWE TV show of all time. F4W Online noted that the paper blasted this week's Raw for a lack of logic and told viewers not to tune in. Raw airs on Wednesday nights in Germany. It sounds like the blame for this week's show being so bad could fall solely on Vince McMahon. The Wrestling Observer newsletter reported that Vince got restless and wrote much of the show himself. John Cena appeared on the Ellen Show this morning. It can be found at this link. During the show, Cena explained some of the Instagram posts, including a Stone Cold stovetop image that he posted on Thanksgiving. For some reason, on Friday, I figured it should be Stone Cold Friday. But you will never see Stone Cold Steve Austin. It will be Stone Cold something else. Cena explained, and the Thanksgiving one was Stone Cold Stovetop. Characters combo: Stone Cold Steve Borden, Stone Cold Urkel, Stone Cold Sasha Banks, Stone Cold Seth Rollins, Stone Cold Jason, Stone Cold Starman. Cena also taught Ellen some Mandarin and handed out gifts for the show. 12 days of giveaways at this link. Cena's Stone Cold post have been a weekly item for a while now. Undertaker, Michelle Cole, and their children were backstage from SmackDown from Arlington, Texas. From Austin, Texas. According to PW Insider, Taker lives in the area as he's from Houston. Hall of Famer Mark Henry, another Texan, also backstage as Raj noted earlier. Others backstage for tonight's show is Christian Maurice, who were filming Miz and Mrs. footage with The Miz. WWE taped the 205 live matches. Drew Gulak defeated the Brian Kendrick. Area DeVary defeated local enhancement talent, no name given, by referee stoppage after DeVary pounded on the jobber. Disqualification. Lucha House Party defeated TJP and Mike Kanellis in a Texas Tornado tag match. SmackDown opens up with a video package on what happened from last week with the women's division and the Battle Royal. We're live from the Frank Irwin Center in Austin, Texas. Tom Phillips welcomes us to the show. Joined in by Corey Graves in Byron, Texas. SmackDown General Manager is in the ring for a contract signing segment. We see tables, ladders, chairs all around the ring. Paige welcomes us to the show. Paige says SmackDown is a brand that makes history, and she's happy to bring the first ever women's TLC match. We also see SmackDown Women's Champion, the women's title hanging above the ring. Paige introduces Asuka first, and out she comes to a pop. Charlotte was out next. Paige introduces the man, Becky Lynch. And out she comes to a pop. Becky looks up at her title hanging above the ring. Becky takes the mic and talks about how she will do whatever it takes to win TLC. The show does. She doesn't care if you earn your title shot or not. Flair says Becky can spin her title shot however she wants, but she's the one who picked up the ball. Becky dropped and beat up Raw Women's Champion Ronda Rousey at Survivor Series with a kendo stick. So imagine what she will do at TLC when tables, ladders, and chairs. They go on arguing until Asuka interrupts. Asuka says Becky already beat Flair, but not her. Asuka says she would have defeated Rousey, and she will beat Becky at TLC. Flair taunts Asuka for how she ended her streak at WrestleMania. Asuka says Flair got lucky one time. They all argue, and Paige interrupts. Becky says none of them could beat Rousey or her. Becky signs the contract and leaves as the fans chant her name. Flair says Becky can leave because she's all talk these days anyway. Flair says that she's going to beat Becky and Asuka again. Flair throws a woo chant. Asuka fires back in Japanese. Flair tells her to stop because she's already shattered Asuka's mystique at WrestleMania and will now finish her at TLC. Paige gets in between them and tells them to calm down. They sign the contract. Asuka wants to fight right now. Mandy Rose music interrupts, and she comes out with Sonya Deville. They cut a promo on Flair and Asuka. Deville says Asuka's Battle Royal win was a fluke last week, but she promises she won't get caught like that again. Rose says if Paige wants to see fire and desire, she's looking at it right at it. Flair gives her the what treatment. Rose wonders what happens if Flair and Asuka don't make it to TLC. Paige says they are past idle threats. She makes a tag match for now. Flair's music hits and they all get ready for the match. We go to commercial. Back from the break, SmackDown Commissioner Shane McMahon's in his office with the World Cup trophy. The Miz walks in and wants to know why he's hosting the Miz TV with WWE Champion Daniel Bryan tonight. Shane says because he is the host of that show. Miz goes on and wants them to become the best tag team in the world. What they were born to do. Shane is worried about Miz getting the important answers out of Bryan tonight. Miz says if he does get those answers, Shane owes him. Shane says he doesn't owe Miz anything. And it also reminds Miz that he is not his partner. Charlotte and Asuka versus Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. We go to the ring. Asuka starts off with Sonya. We go back and forth. Deville avoids Asuka a lot and grounds Asuka. They trade kick attempts and and Asuka blocks a takedown. Asuka gets an armbar now. DeVille keeps control, and in comes Mandy Rose for a double team. Rose gets a 2 count. Asuka fights back with strikes. Rose counters, and Asuka drops her for a close 2 count. Asuka taunts and tags in Flair. Asuka holds Rose while Flair grabs her for a takedown. Flair with a kick to the back. Flair sends Rose into the corner, but runs into an elbow. Flair scoots Rose, but she slides out and sends Flair face first into the middle turnbuckle. Rose talks some trash. Flair pushes her off and hits an overhead throw. Flair kicks up and kicks DeVille as she runs in. Flair with an overhead throw to DeVille. Rose and DeVille roll to the floor to regroup as Flair launches herself over the top rope and takes out both opponents on the floor. Asuka watches from the apron as Flair points at her and then struts. Becky comes walking out down the ramp and poses to a pop. Flair talks some trash as Becky looks on and fans chant her name. We go to commercial. Back for the break. Rose overpowers Asuka, dropping her for a 2 count. We see Becky watching for the match at ringside now. And she's down at the announce table. Rose with another 2 count. DeVille tags in. And they stomp away on Asuka while she's down. DeVille with more offense and another 2 count. Rose comes back in and delivers a knee to the face of Asuka for a 2 count. Rose keeps control, hits a clothesline. Asuka fights out of a big slam and hits a jawbreaker. Flair and DeVille tag in at the same time. Flair unloads and knocks Rose off the apron. Flair chops away on DeVille as the crowd woos with her. Flair with the belly suplex, another kick up for a pop. DeVille rocks Flair, but Flair comes right back with a spear. Rose runs in, but Flair tosses her to the floor. Rose pulls Asuka off the apron. Rose in rocks Flair from the apron, but Asuka pulls her to the floor. Flair turns around and kicks Asuka off the apron with a boot. Not meaning to do that, but it was mighty late. Apparently taking the shot that she was on DeVille. But DeVille rolls Flair up for a 2 count. Asuka comes back and drops Flair with a sliding knee. DeVille takes advantage and pins Flair for the win. After the match, Becky looks on as Rose and DeVille celebrate. Asuka throws her hands up. Becky raises the title at ringside and smiles as Flair recovers. We go to replays. Becky continues raising the title in the air, looking at TLC opponents. So to come second, WWE Champion on Miz TV. Also, Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton. And Cesaro versus Jey Uso versus Xavier Woods. Back to commercial. Back for the right, we see Jon Stewart at ringside. Stewart will appear on the 16th annual tribute to the troops. Xavier Woods versus Cesaro versus Jey Uso. We go to the ring. Out first comes the New Day. Xavier with Big E and Kofi. SmackDown Tag Team Champions. The Bar was out next. Cesaro was out with Sheamus. Out last are the Usos. The bell rings and they take turns on Cesaro. Toss him out of the ring. We see Kofi and Big E at their custom announce table. Woods and Uso go at it while the Bar watches it and talks at ringside. Woods and Cesaro trade pin attempts. They do a show of respect. Cesaro runs in, they deck him, tossing him right back out to the floor and go to commercial. Back for the break, Cesaro drop kicks Woods from the apron to the floor. Cesaro climbs to the top, but Jey gets set back down. Cesaro nails Jey in midair with a big uppercut for a 2 count. We see how Cesaro took apart New Day's announce table during the break. Uso ends up catching Woods in a big Samoan drop. Cesaro and Woods are down on the opposite corners now as Jey hits Woods with a Rikishi splash. Cesaro rolls to the floor, but Jey leaps out to take him down. Jey returns to the ring, but Woods stops him and brings him out to the floor with a big tornado DDT. Cesaro and Woods go at it in the ring. Woods counters and slams Cesaro face first on the mat for a close 2 count. And Sheamus looks on. Fans rally for Woods now. Cesaro blocks an honor roll and rams Woods back into the corner. Jey kicks Cesaro in the head from the apron. Jey goes up top for the big Uso splash, but Cesaro gets his knees up for a 2 count. Woods comes flying off the top onto Cesaro for a 2 count as Jey breaks up the pin. Uso and Woods trade shots in the middle of the ring. They trade big shots and counters, launching each other. Cesaro comes in and goes for the Cesaro swing on Uso. Woods goes to stop it, but Cesaro ends up putting Woods on his shoulders, and he does the Cesaro swing while Woods is on the shoulders. Cesaro with a sharpshooter to Woods down the middle of the ring. Cesaro and Jimmy look on from ringside. Jay runs in and Cesaro blocks his super kick while Jay does an ensecurity. Woods with a 2 count on Cesaro. Woods ends up getting sent to the floor as Jay drops Cesaro for the pin to win. After the match, New Day checks on Woods at ringside as Jimmy enters the ring to celebrate with his brother. Sheamus checks on Cesaro. The Bar raises his titles as all 3 teams have words ahead of their TLC match. Candice Braxton backstage with Lana Rusev. She shows us how Rusev versus Shinsuke Nakamura never happened last week because Nakamura attacked Rusev before the match. Rusev says Nakamura attacked him because he's terrified of him. Rusev brags on how in shape he is. Rusev says he's hungry, but not for a whole chicken or yogurt or cheese, but he's hungry for his U.S. title, which Nakamura is holding onto like a little boy with a toy. Rusev goes on and says Nakamura won't be able to avoid him the next time he gets his hands on him. Rusev says he will feast on Nakamura during the best holiday of them all, Rusev Day. So the come segment, Orton versus Hardy and Miz TV back to commercial. Back from the break, the announcers lead us to a coming soon promo for Lars Sullivan of NXT, calling him one of the hottest free agents, the Freak. Tom noted that Shane and Commissioner Stephanie McMahon are both trying to sign him. We're going to the ring and Miz is waiting for as Greg Hamilton introduces him. Miz welcomes us to another must-see edition of Miz TV. He's quickly interrupted by Carmella and R-Truth. Carmella and R-Truth stop on the stage and call for a dance break. Miz hits. The music hits and they start dancing. Truth says, as you were. As they head back to the backstage area, Miz continues and welcomes us again. Miz talks about how WWE Champion Daniel Bryan has appeared on Miz TV several times over the years, but tonight is special because he's the champion. Miz tells everyone to get up out of their seats and welcomes the new Daniel Bryan. Music hits out comes the WWE Champion. We see how Bryan recently turned heel to win the title from AJ Styles. Bryan takes a seat and Miz talks about how his change in attitude. Miz says Bryan finally realized that the Miz has been right all along. Bryan talks about how he wasn't that smart before because he cared what the fans thought. Bryan no longer cares about them. Bryan goes on and says the fans all are sheep. He talks about the new Daniel Bryan being much more dangerous. Bryan ends up lashing out at the fans for how they destroy the environment and how they contribute to climate change every single day. Bryan says if you want to talk about sins, he kicked the one man in the groin one day, but these people commit countless atrocities against the earth and future generations every single day, month and year. Count the sins, he says. Fans boo. Miz doesn't want to hear it. Miz, he asked Bryan to answer one thing. Did he become WWE champion because he listened to what the Miz said? Yes or no? Fans break out. Yes and no. Chance. Bryan says yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. The orgasms. It doesn't matter, Bryan says. He says the only thing that matters is that the old Daniel Bryan is dead. The Yes Movement with these logos dead. He takes his Yes custom title plates off the side of the belt. Bryan says Miz and everyone else can do nothing about this. Here is our new WWE champion, the new Daniel Bryan. Bryan raises the title and starts chanting fickle at people again. Music interrupts. Out comes AJ Styles to a pop. Styles marches to the ring and Bryan retreats. As he was saying during his segment as well, fickle, 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 fickle. As he was saying that years ago when he was with Team Hell No. Styles marched up the ramp and Bryan retreated. AJ enters the ring. Miz grabs his leg, but AJ kicks him off. AJ ends up chasing Bryan back in the ring, but he unloads on the Miz. Bryan comes from behind and attacks Styles before they double team him. Miz comes from behind and drops AJ with a score finale as Bryan watches from the ramp. Still to come segment, Hardy versus Orton. Back to commercial. Back for the break. Styles versus Miz was announced for later. But next up, we got Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy. We go to the ring. Out comes Jeff Hardy first. Randy Orton was out next. We get a sidebar video from earlier today with Orton taking shots at Hardy and Rey Mysterio still in possession of Rey's mask. The bell rings and Hardy unloads on Orton, but Orton fights off. Orton goes for the ear again, but Hardy stops it. Hardy with a jawbreaker. Hardy knocks